World-shaking events in Dungeons & Dragons move the story and campaign forward. Join us as we talk 10 world-shaking events to leave your setting and players trembling. Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Ian.
And I'm your co-host, Brandon.
You want to take that, Brandon?
Where? Yeah, sure. We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure.
I am super excited for today. I don't know about you, but D&D is my passion. So, of course...
That's an understatement.
So, of course, I'm always doing whatever I can to learn more and educate myself. When I was a D&D insider for 4th edition, I collected all kinds of their digital magazines. And one of them I was reading, and I wanted to talk about this topic so much. 10 world-shaking events for Dungeons & Dragons. The concept comes from Dragon Magazine 430. If you can Google it and find it, it's a really great read. You should do that. But in the meantime, we're going to talk and give you our thoughts and feelings on the topic.
Yeah.
Brandon, why don't you get us started?
Oh, when we think of world-shaking events, we tend to think big war. Or we tend to think big. Wars that pit the forces of good against evil in a final confrontation. Natural disasters that lay waste to entire civilizations. Invasions of vast armies or extraplanar hordes. Oh, that sounds awesome. The assassinations of world leaders. These are the events that title the chapters of history.
And in any story, whether it's a book or a movie, there is a variety of different ways that these events occur. It's not just the most obvious, like cataclysmic, but they're big enough that they become, they change the world in some way. And our D&D world shouldn't be any different. Even if it doesn't directly involve the characters right away, the results should. So these are in no particular order, but we're going to start with the rise of a leader. In dramatic stories, a new leader's rise often comes at the end of a period of struggle or turmoil, right? Sometimes it's a war or an uprising. Other times it's an election, 2016. The death of a tyrant.
No politics.
Right. Policy, that's more a moral decision. The prophecy fulfilled or an appointment of a hero. Conversely, the new leader might be a tyrant, might be incompetent, might be a fiend, or black-hearted villain. And the era that just ended could have been one of peace, tranquility, and justice.
Cheers.
What are some really good examples, whether in your favorite pop culture, your game, whatever, where the rise of a leader shook the world in that setting?
Oh, shit. The Queen in Game of Thrones.
Which one?
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
It's been
out
3
since
years.
forever.
Oh, okay. I guess that's fine.
What's her face?
I don't know.
The blonde who was put out to the street. Shame! Shame!
Oh, that was Cersei.
Seriously, yeah, her.
Okay.
And then there's Daenerys Targaryen, and then there's
Daenerys
Sansa
Targaryen.
Stark.
How did that affect the setting?
Yeah. Actually, for me, the example that came to mind, for me at least, was Berserk with the rise of Griffith.
Yes, that's a good example.
And man, did he fall hard.
Do you want to tell people
That rise
about
again.
how that impacted the setting? Because that's what we want to get across, that they're not just coming to power. Their decisions after that point changes things.
Let me see. With the case of Griffith, he basically sacrifices his entire army to basically become a demon king, essentially.
Yeah.
I need to watch that show.
So that not only
No,
affected...
read it. Don't watch it.
Yeah, the manga is really good stuff. In that case, you see the loss of an entire army, which is going to shift the balance of power instantly. Yep. It's going to affect all the families of those people in the army, which means now they're going to have to get a new army, and those are going to have to come from some people. So now you've got a forced...
Or in this case, he kind of came back with a demon army.
Wow, whatever. The point I'm trying to make is that is an example of something that impacted the setting in a traumatic fashion, right? Do you have anything else as far as a rising of a leader?
No, I know I do, but I just can't think of one.
Really? You guys got nothing else?
The Dragon Reborn?
That's what I'm thinking. We have the new Wheel of Time series just the anime or the movie or series came out.
The TV show,
whatever. And that's an example of a rise of a leader that talks about this prophecy that this person doesn't want to be involved in at all, but the whole world is stitched around him, and this person's actions start to create waves and turn different people into different ways of thinking, which is exciting. Do you have any interesting, if you've got a really favorite rising leader story, share it in the comments. So let's move on to number 2. Ian, you want to tell us a little bit about this?
The exact opposite. The death of a leader. All that begins must end. With the fall of kings and queens, the maps of the world are redrawn. Laws change and cultures are altered.
Wow.
Brandon, you're purple.
Yeah, I know what I am. You yellow. The fall of a tribal warlord means one thing to the larger powers attempting to tame the land under one rule, and something entirely different to the tribe he ruled.
When these people lived, they shaped their civilization and their culture. And when they passed on, the world wasn't the same in their absence. The attitude of the inhabitants shifts subtly at first and then changes dramatically as the people look back or reminisce about the times before. When I was reading this, the first thing I thought of is, I don't know if you've ever watched the anime No Game, No Life.
Yep.
No.
But if you haven't seen it, it's amazing. There needs to be more episodes.
It does.
But in one early season, one of the kings dies, and that leaves that part being filled by somebody else. Now, the king was known to be a fool, right? And has completely driven this kingdom into the ground, and the new person takes power and takes it in a different direction. But it soon's revealed that was necessary. The foolish king actions were necessary in order to overcome an upcoming obstacle, and it all unfolds really well. So the way the people perceive the new kings is not well. They think they probably need a new way of ruling, because the king almost cost them everything.
Yep.
I need to watch that.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I see it on
It's
those
so
times.
good.
I'm like,
If you like intellectual type shows, it'll fucking knock your brain off. What are some other examples of good stories of deaths of a leader where it changed the setting?
Well, once again, Game of Thrones.
I guess that one's going to be a popular one that keep coming back. A specific example?
Yeah, when King Robert died, it literally split the kingdom into 5 separate factions at least.
That's a really good example. And that and I can relate to that in
like, really, at the end of the day, he was essentially a poor leader, but he was charismatic. And that charisma kind of held things together.
Yeah, that's a good one. In the Stormlight Archives,
yep,
the start of the first book, it talks about the death of this king, and it shatters the princedoms into their own little factions instead of being ruled under one king. And so they start squabbling amongst themselves, and it becomes a battle against those that were allies just moments before. So I say moments, but it was, it took years. But the whole culture changed because of that. Do you have anything, Brandon?
Yes. This is old school. It's going back to Magic Knight Rayearth.
God, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's an anime. And spoiler alert, I mean, it's like 30 years old, so you're way behind. At the end of season 1, the leader is killed. They get killed off. And the issue with, I think the land is called Zephyro. I can't exactly remember the name of the place. But without a leader, it starts to collapse in on itself, becomes this chaotic mess of just horrifying violence and demons and such. And now they got these 3 separate factions, I think it's 3 of them, fighting to get to the crown of Zephyro. And whoever owns the crown, whoever the crown decides to choose to be the leader, becomes the next leader of that thing. But until the leader's chosen, the entire land is put into chaos, and it just sucks for everyone.
Andrew says, JN in the Redwall series, the death of the Badger Lord can be a tremendous sea change for the area. I've not read that, but I've heard good things, and it sounds like
Agreed.
Ian too.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about the third one. Now, I think when it comes to world-shaking events, this is the most common. Cataclysmic disaster, earthquakes,
Yay.
famine, fire, plagues, floods, disasters on a grand scale can eradicate whole civilizations suddenly and without warning. They redraw maps, destroy economies, and alter worlds.
Sometimes the survivors rebuild from the ruins. The Great Chicago Fire, for instance, provided an opportunity to rebuild the city according to a modern plan. Most of the time, the disaster leaves only ruins, buried under ash like Pompeii, or sunk beneath the waves like mythical Atlantis.
You can use real historical cataclysms and their history to bring ideas forth for your world's cataclysm. For instance, think of like warping up the planet planes and magic gone awry, like a nuclear incident.
Ooh,
They're big events that unnaturally alter the land and society.
Yeah, Chernobyl.
I really, really like this. So the one thing I want to talk about here is cataclysmic disaster. One of the best examples of this is when I was in D&D, or not D&D, Final Fantasy 14. When it first came out, the game was so horrible. The developers were like, all right, we got to redo this. We're going to put new people in charge. Well, what are we going to do about the current world? Let's drop a meteor on it. That's literally what happened. Except for the meteor turned out to be a dragon sealed away as Bahamut busts free and rains hell fire everywhere, completely reshaping the land.
Really their excuse for making it better? Let's just destroy it and restart?
Yes.
That's quite literally what happened. But because of that, all the world itself changed. It looked different. And that was a really great example of a cataclysmic disaster. Andrew says in Dragonlance series, there is a cataclysm where the gods drop a mountain on a holy city. That'll reshape their beliefs instantly. Cause port times to become inland, deserts to be developed in new seas, etc. Those are the types of things that I can be in. They don't have to they don't have to be events that occur 1,000 years ago. Once again, I want to go back to the Final Fantasy. When you start the game, it's 10 years after that event. So it's fresh in everyone's mind. They still have family members that had died because of it and cities that were demolished. And they're still going through the recovery process. You can start your campaign when that's just happened. Or maybe it's about to happen, and the whole goal is to figure out how can we stop it? If we can't, how can we survive it?
Yeah, I just referenced in chat how when we were doing Dawn of Worlds, just me and you.
Yep.
Like, you dropped a meteor on the home volcano of my fire dwarves. Oh, what did
Yeah, because you were trying to take over my people, and you did anyway.
But let's say all it really did was piss them off.
Any other ideas for this? I think the flooding is a good one. If you really wanted to do an event like a naval style adventure, you could have it where the gods go to war and the city is flooded. So now everyone has to adapt and survive on boats and shit.
Yep.
Isn't that kind of what is it, 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea? No.
You mean
Waterworld, maybe? Something
too?
like that, where they had to adapt. You guys got anything else?
Yes, Waterworld. I was thinking the Matrix and how the AI uprising happened, but that's more of a...
I would say that's
it's more of an invasion.
Yeah, that would be one of the ones later, so we can talk a little. Actually, that's a good segue. Why don't you take that?
Segue. Number 4 is invasion or assault. One of the most common world-shaking events, an invasion occurs when one group forcibly takes over another, usually by military strength, but also by infiltration and occupation.
Well, an assault differs from an invasion in that the attacking force is not necessarily interested in occupation or taking power. On the other hand, an assault might be the first step of an invasion.
Yeah, this is something I think fits more along with what you were talking about. So, as a world-shaking event, an assault or an invasion makes a definite impact. A definitive impact. It can't be just another military action, regardless of the scale. The incursion stands out because its repercussions change the character's world, and its effects resonate long after the initial attack or takeover.
Like the example of the Matrix is when it gets down to the pure core of the lore of that entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's that the AI, it started gaining its own consciousness, like becoming self-aware, and it got into all these arguments with humans, and they start fighting back and forth. Now, when you're watching the movies and you see the real world, the sky is always black. That's because human beings
Scorch the sky.
scorch the sky, and they made it that way because they thought that robots always relied on solar power.
Right.
And then the robots turned around and said, "Okay, we're gonna make humans, and make them our own power source."
And so the whole world changes because of that. Now, though, it's a dark world.
Yeah.
Desolate except for machines that are automated and got people in tubes, right?
Yep.
That's a really great example of like a high end of that, where the invasion really changed the way the world was shaped and utilized. You have any examples? Yeah.
Like, remember in the Dune book series, in the later books, the galaxy as we knew it suddenly got invaded by the other Matres, which was a religious order.
Mm-hmm.
But then you find out as you go, like, oh, sounds like they weren't conquering just for the sake of conquering. Sounds like they were running away from something even way worse.
That's so there's a lot you can do with the invasion or assault.
Oh, yeah.
I think I just hate to do the Wheel of Time again, but there's a group of people. They're the Shan-Chan.
Yep.
They're an invasion, and I think the Aiel War was an invasion where the whole world and everyone's perception of the way everything goes changed because of those events.
Or at the very least, the people believed it was an invasion.
That's true.
That's all.
I might not be far enough to know. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Very, very non-spoilerly
Yes.
description there. So yeah, I think that this is a really good one because this can be a really great reason to introduce new races or new cultures to your world. They come from a far off land. Isn't that in
It's in the Avengers.
Lord of the Rings? Isn't that where the elves sailed from somebody over? Wait, am I thinking? Is it Lord of the Rings, right?
Right. Elves came from
The elves came from somebody overseas. I don't know where it is because I only seen the movies. But
yeah.
they don't actually say where it comes. But it happened in Aragon was like that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
The elves came from some faraway place. That could be considered a quote unquote invasion. It doesn't have to necessarily be aggressive, but it's going to change the way it unfolds. Number 5 is rebellion, revolution, and overthrow.
Dissatisfied with the current order, a person or group of people overturns the dominant regime and takes over. Or in some cases, fails to take over. Scrubs.
January 6th.
You would have just worked a little harder.
No politics. Regardless of the result, a revolution, even an attempted one, can shake the world and shape the destiny of nations.
I would argue January 6th was not politics. That
Dude,
was
move on.
just saying.
We're D&D podcast.
It's an event.
D&D podcast,
That was
move
an
on.
event.
It was a world-shaking event. Okay, maybe country-shaking event.
No, I will
In
punch
a
you.
medieval fantasy world,
Hope not.
revolutions are often bloody and brutal, but they need not always be. Nonviolent revolutions or overthrows, such as the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, yeah,
Don't worry, baby.
in 1980, fuck you, in 1989, can occur as the results of a vote or mass protest.
The scale of a revolution, no matter how many people, need not involve the common masses against nobility. A revolution can be as small as a merchant's guild revolting against its leadership or a church overthrowing its priesthood in favor of a new creed. The spirits of the forest might attempt to overthrow the forces of civilization in a nearby city that cut down trees for timber. Alternatively, the scale can be as dramatic as humanity rising to overthrow the gods. There's a lot of really good examples of this. I don't want to get too much into like the Matrix things, but iRobot was a lot about this, right? In the sci-fi setting, the iRobot is the AI decided humans are too dumb and unreliable to manage themselves, so they need to be controlled.
Sadly, they may not be wrong.
Right?
Wasn't there a
yeah.
rebellion and revolution in France at one point?
The
Yes.
French Revolution.
Yeah.
There's a lot of revolutions, but it's usually under the guise of making some sort of improvement. While that's not always the case, it usually will shape the world in some way. I really like the idea of a merchants guild saying, "I'm tired of being controlled by I'm not getting political, the government. which could be nobles, it could be whatever city of people is there, and say, we're no longer paying taxes. Well, that may seem, oh, easy, send the guards in, but what are you going to do when no food is coming in? When there's no trade for common tools and things that are needed for people to do their jobs? It completely can shut down the country as a whole. And it might just be, we want less taxes, you know?
Yep.
So there's a lot you can do with that.
There's five more, but we're kind of nearing the halfway point right now. So.
But we also started later too because of problems.
True.
So next up, we're going to talk extinction and depletion. Something is gone from the campaign world. It once existed, now it doesn't. This might be a variety of plants, precious resources, mithril, adamantine come to mind, an animal species or a wild game of the region, or an entire race or culture of people. This element or creature is hunted or exploited to extinction, or else suffer some other fate that eliminates it from the part of the world, leaving behind nothing but its memory. This absence can cause a chain reaction of issues that can affect everything worldwide.
I do appreciate a good post-apocalyptic campaign.
Yes. And I think this is a really good one because this is something that can happen a lot and very easily, right? You see it happen with mining, right? You go through and you mine something and it runs out.
Yeah.
Oil runs out, right? It's no different in your world. Maybe the weave has its limits.
Yep.
What is in Final Fantasy VII? The whole thing is the big companies are sucking the life force from the planet to power everything, but it's killing the planet. It's a limited resource.
No. Again, I'm actually thinking about the fact that, once again, I'm reading yet another Discworld book, and it's heavily touched upon the fact that, hey, wizards, no women. And it's played off as a joke many times, but it turned out that wizards used to allowed to have kids in the past, but it led to so many magic users that tore the world apart.
Yep. Isn't that the theme of no, that was the gods left in, is it Dark Sun or Dragonlance?
I think.
Which one was it that the gods just ceased to exist?
I feel like that's Dark Sun.
So so that changes the way it works, right? The whole world becomes affected. If magic suddenly disappeared from a world based around magic, how would that affect the world?
That would definitely screw over a few things, and goodbye clerics.
Right.
And
Mitchell Adams says, "Oh, I love that. I commonly make Dragonborns extinct in my game worlds." Did you say?
I like the Interstellar idea.
Yeah.
That one's fun.
Going Interstellar?
Have you not seen Interstellar?
I've not.
It's on my to-do list.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's a depletion issue, and that's that.
Killing the planet?
No, it's not that we're killing the planet. It's that we've run out of food because we've genetically altered corn and all these vegetables and stuff so much that they just don't grow no more.
Wow.
So it's up to these people to go through this wormhole into this different galaxy where we found several planets to try to find a new home.
I love it. There's no reason you couldn't apply that into a local continent, right? Where you have to expand out from the continent or connect into another realm. In Sliders, there's the world is dying in one of those, so they developed sliding technology so they could go and steal the resources from another plane.
That's fucked up.
Or shoot, that's like the whole point of like the orcs in the Warcraft series. The planet they came from was destroyed, so they basically planet hopping from one to another.
I don't know how I didn't think about that. Yeah, that was the thing though when they crossed over into Kalimdor. So how about do you want to touch on the New World Order, Brandon?
New World Order, we're not far off. The foundation of a new world, of a new order, kingdom, religion, society, cable, yeah, or cult can shake the world with its actions, doctrine, dogma, and policies. On a local scale, a new order contends with the existing power groups, influencing, subverting, dominating, or allying with them to create a stronger base of power.
Large and powerful organizations can exert enough influence to rule the world. Some new organizations benefit the populace, while others grow to threaten the civilization they once protected.
Isn't the whole last Star Wars movie all about this, or the first one? Isn't it literally the name of the enemy, the New Order or some shit?
Something like that.
and they're trying to reestablish their footing, and they're doing it in a very aggressive and dominating style.
You tell them when you find out Palpatine's still alive.
Spoiler alert.
That movie's been out for quite some time.
Yeah.
So I think this is the most interesting, especially if you like political intrigue, because watching. So in the Mistborn books, an entire religion forms around a character who is no god, but he uses the way he acts and the way he his message that he's getting out there becomes very popular.
Yep.
And it's really funny. They call it the Church of the Survivor.
Yep.
Except the damn dude's dead, so figure that one out. But
Well, actually,
it makes sense in the theme, but I wasn't gonna get too much into it.
Actually, he's not dead. You have to go into the wider sentence works, but he's still alive.
I read them all. I don't remember that.
Like you know the Ghost Bloods and the
Yeah.
that Kelsey is the leader
Oh, how'd you come to that conclusion?
because some of the short stories already said so.
Oh yeah, I haven't read any short stories. I should probably get on that. All right, so that's interesting. Spoiler alert. We're full of those today. So leading into, I think that's just a really fun one. You can have a lot, especially if you like the more political intrigue stuff. Next, Brandon, do you want to tell us about the Discovery expansion and invention?
Discovery expansion and invention. New discoveries change the world. Discoveries of new lands expand the map and change the boundaries of empires.
Yeah. Discoveries of new magic or technology expand the boundaries of what once was thought possible. New resources or archaeological finds create opportunity and wealth and set prospectors and power groups in motion to vie for their control. You see this really, really often with the alchemy and the more science-oriented type guilds and stuff, because their findings not only create things like black powder, but also they find new and interesting ways to evolve the world. I think Eberron is a really great example of that because it meshes the combination of magic and technology, and it evolved because of new inventions, which pulls it out of that pure fantasy setting. So, is there any other Discovery or expansion ones you can think of?
I mean, there's shitload of real world ones.
Like what?
The bicycle, the light bulb.
Yeah, those are inventions.
Yeah, exactly.
What about expansion?
Expansion.
Like discoveries of new lands and stuff. I think that comes into play with World of Warcraft, like you were talking earlier, right? Where the orcs come from the Outlands into the new area.
And the Age of Exploration, too, for that matter.
Some good stuff. Sorry, we're running out of time, so I'm trying to burn through these a little quicker than we were. Ian, do you want to tell us about number 9, predictions, omens, and prophecies? One of my favorites.
Sometimes the foretelling of a world-shaking event becomes a world-shaking event in and of itself. Omens that predict the fall of empires, the doom of races, and the end of the world. Sometimes an omen points to change for the good, a legendary hero or messiah, but the most dramatic prophecies warn of future tragedies and predict dark ages.
Yeah.
The end is nigh.
Unlike other world-shaking events, the outcome doesn't happen immediately. Instead, individuals or factions work to fulfill or avert the prophecy according to how it will affect them. The prophecy's helpers or hinderers are forces that create adventure hooks in campaigns by the actions they take. So a prophecy should foretell a big event on a grand scale, since it will take time for that to come true or to be, averted.
Dipping into the wheel of time again, it's prophesied that the Dragon Reborn is the only one who can stand against the Dark One. The problem with that, though, is the Dragon Reborn is the reincarnation of one of the most powerful male magic users to ever live. But the catch-22 is male magic users in this franchise tend to go insane.
Yep, they get tainted by the Dark One.
So, the whole time, we just gotta save us. But he's also a powerful magic user and might go nuts.
Yep, and that's a really, really great example of that because the people are torn. They have two differing opinions on what is the best way to do it. Do we manipulate and control and leash this person so they work for us, or do we let them evolve on their own and show them what and guide them is the right, or do we just kill them? And you get these different factions within the group that are trying to deal with that in different ways.
And the sad part is, with many, if not most of them, you kind of see their point.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, and the last one is myth and legend. Brandon, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Myth and legends.
Sorry.
It's cool, thank you. Sometimes a world-shaking event takes on mythic or legendary proportions. If wars, plagues, discoveries, and the like can be called regular world-shaking events, these are the events that exceed and surpass them. The ones that come along only once a millennium, if ever, and shape the world's mythic outlook for all of time to come.
These wildcard events change a region or a whole world on a grand scale. Some forms this may take could be a crashing comet, destruction of the moon. That's one of my favorites personally. Another plane merging with the material realm. Hell yeah, creating a multiversal war. That sounds familiar right now.
Yeah.
And honestly, so these are things that don't necessarily fall into some of the categories of the other ones that you can plug into here. I like to think on a grander scale of like merging planes and stuff. That's what I think when I think mythic and legendary type world shaking events. Plane shaking events, you know. So there's obviously a lot you can do with these things, and we hope that these provide you guys with some insight. Is there anything you think we should touch on before we move on that's specifically related to this?
Nope.
This sort of theme?
I'm also sitting there for time, though, so.
Yeah, that's fine. That's okay. I'm okay with that. All right, so we've been working on something for a long time. I'm super excited. And so we got another drop. Honey, why don't you roll that beautiful bean footage? When you know, and you want to go get that bad boy right now.
I have fun playing it.
Yeah, it was a real blast.
Okay. Like, I still to this day chuckle when, like, me and Austin, we both built a crime fighter, and we ended up with completely different characters. And I remember we were talking about who would win in the fight 1-on-1. I'm like, what? I thought I said to Austin, like, I think you would win because you have flight and you have range attacks, and the advantage that is obvious. Like, yeah, but your guy got next to my guy in hand-to-hand combat. I'll be destroyed. Yes.